As I said, one of the main sources of one of the main secondary sources of information will be research that you do online, online databases, online information, online websites, and you're going to need, particularly when you're looking at websites as opposed to document repository type sites, you're going to need to make some evaluations about whether or not this information is appropriate and whether it's credible. And you will need to do this because you only want to cite information that is credible. You do not want to have your report criticized and your report, the effectiveness of your report limited by using and relying on sites that really are not appropriate and are not really worth the reliance that you're putting on them. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that the material is current. Is the website updated frequently? Look at the copyright dates on the on any information that's posted. Look for dates of updates. Look for any date references that you can see. Try to make sure that the material is current, is fresh. Most websites, most credible websites, will identify when they were last updated. So you want to make sure that your material is current. You want to make sure that the material, the person who is providing this information, the person who is writing the website or editing the website, or the people who are contributing to the website, do they really have expertise? Are they really authorities in the subject that they're purporting to be? You want to look to see what is the basis of their authority. Do they have substantial expertise? Do they have substantial education? Do they have substantial experience? What is the basis for their claim of authority? Also, you have to look at who is the sponsor or the publisher of the site that you're looking at. If that if that publisher is not necessarily a neutral site or a neutral party, if there might be some sort of ideological axe to grind or some type of bias, you need to know that, and you need to judge the credibility of the material in light of that bias. You want to see if there's contact information about the either the entity that is the sponsor for the website or the author, because you need to know, is this person affiliated with credible organizations? If not, then the authority of the information and its credence, its credibility, is going to be is definitely going to be suspect. You want to look at the content. You want to look for bias. Look for any effort to sell a product or service. What is the purpose of the site that you're looking at? And does the purpose of that site line up and match with the purpose of the report that you're preparing? Who's the intended audience for that site? If the intended audience for that site is inconsistent with the intended audience for your report, maybe that site isn't an appropriate. You shouldn't. It's not appropriate to be gathering information from that site for your report. You have to look at the content of that site and see how the content compares to content that might be located elsewhere. Does what you can see about this particular site indicate that the content is reliable, that it is that you can trust the veracity and the accuracy of the information on that website? And that is the other criteria that you want to look at, which is accuracy. Do the facts seem reliable? If something doesn't look good, the content could be suspect. So you also want to make sure that the website again is free of typographical errors, is free of spelling errors, is free of formatting errors, that it looks good, that it looks professional. Because if it doesn't, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to have lots of bells and whistles and it has to have a lot of snazzy graphics. A very simple, straightforward website might have very credible information if that information is presented in a very clean and straightforward and technically correct manner with proper mechanics. The writing is of high quality. And again, you want to look for bias. You want to make sure that there's no bias on the part of the person who is writing or editing the website, or the person whose work is being used or cited in the website. And you want to make sure that whatever makes its way into your report is verifiable, is accurate, and is information that can be trusted and can be relied on. One of the other, not one of the other, but the other main source of information after secondary sources are primary sources. Primary sources are where you develop the information directly from the source. Now, there are various ways in which you can go about getting primary information, conducting primary research. Now, your type of report, the report that you're going to be doing and submitting, is not going to rely on primary sources. Number one, in this day and age, today, 2020, you're not able to go out and do a lot of primary research. You're in quarantine, you're in lockdown, and that's good because for your papers, you don't necessarily need to have primary resources, primary research. But for some papers, particularly internal papers, a lot of those internal reports, a lot of those will depend on and could depend very heavily on primary research. So what are some of the sources of primary research? Surveys, directly going to an audience and trying to get an audience's opinion. Interviews, one-on-one personal interviews with people who might have been involved or who might be involved with whatever the subject matter of your report is. Observations and experimentation. That's all primary research sources. And in some instances, that will definitely be very, very appropriate. If you're preparing a traffic study in relation to whether or not a town should grant a building permit for a new shopping center, you're going to need to go out and you're going to need to generate and count cars and see what the traffic patterns are. And from that, try to estimate as to what the traffic demands might be from this building project for which you're doing the traffic study. So there are certain types of reports that you'll be preparing in your careers that could very much depend on primary sources. Now that once we have all of our information together and we've pulled all of our information together and we've organized our information, now we need to move into the writing phase and we need to move into how to document information. And one of the things that we are going to try to avoid at all costs in preparing reports and in documenting the information that we've uncovered in the course of our research is we want to avoid any charges of plagiarism. You want to always give proper credit to the author of material that you are summarizing or including in your report. Plagiarism is an incredibly serious issue. It has impact in so many areas of life: politics, academia, science, medicine, almost any area where reports will be filed, or where the where written material will be provided, or where speeches will be made. Any any um, any type of communication like that, there's always the risk of plagiarism. And we have politicians who are active in current political activities who have had issues of plagiarism throughout their entire careers. And it becomes much easier in the electronic age to uncover plagiarism because of so much material is recorded, so much material is saved, so much material is archived. So your job as a business communicator is making sure that you don't fall afoul of plagiarism issues, and you don't fall afoul of misusing other people's information in the preparation of your reports. You want to always give credit, and that's an ethical way to proceed, and it offers other benefits. It strengthens your argument. It gives you the ability to instruct your readers, and it saves time. It saves you time, and it also gives you the opportunity to sort of harmonize what the main point of what an author might have been saying, and incorporating the main point into your report with proper citation, but without necessarily using direct quotes. You must always give proper credit when you're using someone's ideas or opinions or theories, when you're quoting statistics or facts, or using charts or graphs or other drawings that are not common knowledge. If you're using someone's exact spoken words, you need to quote those words using quotation marks and giving proper citation to the source of the quote. Even if you're paraphrasing, when you're paraphrasing someone, you need to identify whose work you're paraphrasing and what is the source of the original information that is now being presented in your paraphrase. If there's any type of electronic information, any type of media, any type of visual, that all needs to be properly cited. You want to learn how to paraphrase. And paraphrasing is an extremely tricky process. You need to be able to do it well, or you should probably not try to do it at all. You need to, first off, always know the material cold. Have read it, understand it. Make sure that it really resonates with you. And then you need to be able to rewrite it in your own words, in your own version. And you have to try to avoid grammatical patterns, using terminology, using phrasing that is consistent with the original author's work. When you're paraphrasing, you really need to make this your own communication and not just a slightly modified regurgitation of the communication from the original author. Always make sure that your paraphrase, though, is consistent. If you're not comfortable paraphrasing, then you might want to look at using a direct quotation. And a direct quotation will have to be presented in the appropriate way, either with quotation marks or with a block quote, and you will have to provide proper citation for that quotation. But you have to walk another fine line when you are using quotations. You do not want to overquote. Your material will not look original, and you will not appear to be an original thinker, and your work will appear to lack originality if you overuse quotes. Now, there are some reasons why you want to use an appropriate number of quotes. It does provide some type of objective background. It gives you the opportunity to repeat original phrasing that might just be so clear and so on point that to paraphrase it would be to confuse it and make it ambiguous. And if you are going to be refuting an original point, a point made by an original author, then you most often want to quote that work so that you can respond more effectively and more efficiently to what it is that the original author said. Now, when you are preparing formal reports and you are needing to provide citations for paraphrased information, for direct quotations, there are two main forms of citation formatting, documentation formatting that you need to know. There is the Modern Language Association format, which is often known as MLA format. And then there is the American Psychological Association format, which is also known as APA format. Your textbook talks about both, gives you information about both in Appendix B and in Chapter 10. For our report, you need to master APA style. We will be doing our report in ABA style. And there is a good amount of information on APA style in your textbook, in Appendix B. But for some unique citation styles, citation forms, for some government documents, you may need to go to the APA source directly. And we will be talking about this a little bit more when we talk about, when we do our workshop next week on the paper, the final paper. So just remember that there are these two format styles. There's the MLA form and the APA format, and we are using APA format. There are other types of formats that people use, but it has become much more the common practice in business and in academia to use either MLA form or APA form.